and they saw that their house was in the side of the scope on the screen, and it was getting closer and closer to the crosshairs. It was lining up, and then the spaceship stopped directly over their house, and they heard the commands: lower the apple pancakes into the bin. And Darth and Joe said, they're planning to crush our house. And the Neblarians looked around because they heard voices, but there were no bodies that they could see. And so quickly, Darth, Neblarians are about 80 feet tall, so they're very difficult to deal with. But Joe jumped up and poked one of them in the bum, and he turned around and to see what it was that had bumped into him. And Darth quickly jumped on the control panel, and in order to work the buttons, he had to jump from button to button. But he managed to turn off the bomb bay doors, which were going to open up to drop the pancakes. And so they knew that something was wrong, and the captain turned on an emergency signal, and the captain pressed the intercom button and said, "Trioculus, to the control room, something's going wrong." "Trioculus?" And they said, "Who said that?" "Not who, us." And Darth and Joe became visible again, and the Neblarians said, "Get them," and started trying to smash the ground, but Darth and Joe were running really quickly and became invisible again. And pretty soon Trioculus appeared, and Joe time lassoed him, pulled him to the other side of the room.
How big was Trioculus?
He was just their size. So the Neblarians knew about the little people. They knew what they were doing the whole time. That clearly the vastly newly improved Trioculus was somehow involved in all of this. And they time lassoed him and pulled him over. And Joe took off the time lasso and made himself visible and held his lightsaber up to Trioculus and said, "Don't anybody move, or I'm going to cut Trioculus in half with my lightsaber." And the Neblarian said, "What do you want us to do, Master?" "Master? You mean you giant people work for this little bad guy?" And Joe was pointing at the vastly newly improved Trioculus. And the Neblarian said, "Well, we have no choice. We had to destroy Darth and Joe Vader. They were enemies of the whole of our galaxy. They had a whole plan to destroy our galaxy, and if we don't destroy them with pancakes, which is our easiest means we could think of, then, as Trioculus explained, all of our people were going to be killed." "What do you mean all of your people were going to be killed?" "They were going to drown us in syrup." "Syrup?" "Yes, our people eat a lot of pancakes, but we never use syrup like humans do or other species, because it clogs up our pores, and we breathe through our skin. When we eat syrup, it fills the inside of our skin up, and we can't get any air. It's very dangerous. And Darth and Joe Vader were going to spread syrup all over our galaxy." And Darth and Joe Vader said, "That's ridiculous. We were going to do no such thing." "You're Darth and Joe Vader?" And they said, "Yes. Trioculus is an intergalactically known bad guy. He made all that up. He's been trying to kill us for years." And the Neblarian said, "Is this true?" And Trioculus said, "Well, sort of. Got to go by." And in a puff of smoke, he was gone. "Where'd he go? Where'd he go? I don't know." And the captain of the Neblarian said, "I have a signal that there's a space pod taking off from Deck 4. "A space pod? He's trying to escape. Let's go. And we'll get him, don't worry." And Darth and Joe transported to the space pod just as it was leaving, and Trioculus was working the controls, which were so huge he had to jump from one button to another. And so Darth and Joe together jumped onto the emergency stop button, and the space pod stopped just a few hundred yards or meters from the Neblarian spaceship. And they said, "Trioculus, dropping pancakes on us, that's the final straw. This time you're going to jail for a long, long time." And they tied him up, grabbed him, and transported him down to their planet. And they sent a signal to the Neblarians, and they said, "Please, accept our apologies for thinking that you were trying to kill us intentionally. We understand that you were just under the influence of this evil, vastly newly improved Trioculus. And you can look it up in our galactic computer. he's wanted for all sorts of crimes, mostly trying to kill us, Darth and Joe Vader, but also doing all sorts of damage to other people in the meantime and many other species. So we're going to put him in jail. And don't worry, we're not going to send any syrup to your galaxy. We want only to be peace-loving friends with your people, the Neblarians. And so the Neblarians thanked them and asked if there was anything they could do for them. And Darth and Joe said, well, we were gonna, we never actually got to eat our blueberry pancake dinner because the restaurant got smashed, and by now the blueberry pancakes are kind of moldy that are sitting on top of it. But if you could just drop a single blueberry down near our house, we'd have enough blueberries to make some delicious blueberry pies and pancakes. And I said, sure, and they dropped it right next to Darth and Joe's house. It kind of splattered a little bit, but it was loud enough to wake up the rest of their family, and they looked outside, and there was a giant blueberry outside the window, and they went out and scooped out, when Darth and Joe went home and explained it all to them, they scooped out the pieces of blueberry, and they made blueberry pancakes, blueberry pies, blueberry milkshakes, and blueberry yogurt, and various other blueberry treats. And Trioculus went to jail for a long, long time.
Was he ever released?
Only when a friend of his helped him to escape 13 years later, which was only 2 weeks later because he transported him forward in time 13 years. The end. Once upon a time, when Darth and Joe were 8 and almost 6 years old, they were down in their laboratory. It was during the day, and their youngest brother, even though his name was Ben, they called him Sporp sometimes, came down into their laboratory. Well, they usually called him Smork, but occasionally they called him Spork or Pork. And he was opening and shutting the door of their laboratory and saying things like, open? He didn't know shut yet, but he knew open. And Joe said, Smorp. And Darth said, oh, just ignore him. He has to learn about open and close. And so he was opening and closing the door, opening and closing the door, and then he came down in the laboratory and started opening and closing little dishes that they had that they were using in their experiments. And so Darth said, Ben, that was also one of his names.
Dad, you know what?
What?
They never really invent anything.
No, but they do a lot of experiments.
They should invent something.
Well, they were trying to invent a sort of bubble gum that you could chew for a while and then swallow, and it would be good for you.
That's already invented.
Oh, well, not in their galaxy.
Oh.
And so they were working on their bubble gum invention, and they decided that maybe they could make a bubble gum that when you blew a big bubble, you could then throw it at your enemy and it would explode and cover them with bubble gum.
And it would be easier to blow a bubble.
Easier. They wanted to make easier bubble gum. They wanted to invent a new kind of well, they were working on various bubble gum inventions at the time. And so they also noticed that lint gets trapped in their belly buttons. So they invented a sort of screen they could that they could wear over their belly button to protect it from lint. I thought that would be very useful in their galaxy.
But nobody ever bought it?
No, not yet, but they don't understand why not, because it seems like a great invention to them. So
They use it?
oh yeah, all the time. They have lint protectors on.
Are they invisible?
No, they're little like mesh wire with lint protectors, but they have clothes on over that, so nobody ever sees them. So there they were working in the laboratory, and they heard some sounds upstairs. Oh, I know what that is, said Darth. Joe said, I think I know what it is too. It's our big sister making some sort of alleged food item. Oh, I hope she's not making fudge. She had stopped making brownies by this time. and had started making fudge, but that's another story. So they sniffed, and they could smell through the vents her famous fudge ingredients, which were mostly made from old bird brownies that she'd been saving for about a year and a half in a drawer. And they closed the vent so they wouldn't have to smell it as much. They climbed on a table and reached up and closed the vent. So, we have to get out of here, Darth, said Joe, before she asks us to taste her fudge. You're right, said Darth. We have to escape, but if we go upstairs to the front door, she'll see us, and she'll say, Darth Joe, come taste my fudge. And then, how will we ever escape?
Out of a window?
That's it. We can escape from a baseboard. Oh, yeah. Why don't we transport? Good thinking.
But where will they transport? Right outside?
Yeah, we could transport outside.
Are there windows upstairs?
Yeah, far enough away so that nobody sees us outside the house.
Stuff.
So they decided that they didn't need to transport yet because, well, she hasn't come downstairs, but they decided that to tell their brother, who had been playing by the door, listen, Ben, that was one of his names, if you please, could you stay here on the stairway, and if you see our big sister Jane, could you please tell her, could you please make a noise if you see her? Say, hello, Jane. And Ben said, hello, Jane. No, not yet. Okay, that's good. Right, say it just like that. You sit here, and if you see her, you tell us. That'll be our warning. So they'll be ready for her if she comes down the stairs. So and they'll transport away. So, usually they tried not to let anybody into their laboratory because they have a lot of sensitive experiments going on. Well, he was playing up near the stairway when suddenly they did hear him say something. What did Ben say? Right, and they figured that meant that Jane's coming. So they instantly they had agreed to transport to next to the ice cream store. Now they'd like to transport not into the middle of the street or, sidewalk, because that would startle people. So they would always transport into an alley or something, or behind a building, because otherwise people would just see them appear places. And they like to keep some of their powers secret, right? They didn't want everybody to know that they could transport, although people suspected, because sometimes they were able to disappear and reappear other places. So they transported away, and they decided, well, since we're near the ice cream store, do you want to get some ice cream? Yeah. Why don't we get some...
What if she sold her fudge to the ice cream store to use for...
Well,
they
think it's very unlikely that the ice cream people would ever buy the fudge, that if they tasted it. But then again, she can be very bossy, so maybe they did buy it. And they looked inside, and there was, very suspiciously, a new flavor, fudge-flavored ice cream. And Darth said, where'd you get the idea for fudge-flavored ice cream? And the ice cream guy said, oh, that's a new flavor. I haven't tried it yet, but we just got that flavor in today. Oh, where's the fudge come from? And he said, oh, somebody brought it by. Oh, I see. Would you like to try some? Oh, no thanks. That's all right. I think we'll stick to vanilla today. And so Darth and Joe bought some vanilla ice cream. And they thought, well, we should bring some back for Jane, but then no, because she'll want to trade it for fudge. It's too dangerous. Try to limit all contact to Jane until she has got rid of all her fudge. She's too dangerous when she has fudge. Or brownies. Yes.
Or any food she makes.
So as they were walking home with their ice cream, because it was a nice day, and they wanted to spend some time outside the house while Jane was making fudge, they started talking again about the Teletubby dreams that they had, and the fact that both of them had the same dream, and they were very violent anti-Teletubby dreams. And they didn't know why. They were not big fans of the Teletubbies. Darth and Joe thought the Teletubbies were dumb. But why would they have dreams about attacking the Teletubbies? So they decided to do an experiment, to go back home and have one of them fall asleep and the other one hook his head up with monitors up with electrodes up to a screen where they could see an image of the dream as it happened. Because they got home and they teleported in the basement so that nobody would see them come in the front door. And Darth hooked Joe up to the machine. He lied down on the couch down in the basement and hooked electrodes up to his head, which that doesn't hurt, but it's attached to a sort of a TV set called a dream monitor that they had just.
It would be hard for him to fall asleep, right?
That's right. So they decided to invent a sort of sleeping bubble gum, which actually helps people relax and fall asleep. And so there are some naturally occurring herbs on their planet that make people sleepy, and one of them is papayacint. And so they had some papayacint in a jar. They had all the herbs that they could find in jars in case they ever needed them to make things. So they had some papayacint, and Darth mixed it into some bubble gum, and Joe started chewing it, and his eyelids got very tired and heavy feeling, and he lied down, and Darth attached electrodes, and he said, "Good night."
Why bubblegum? So we can blow Darth up into a big bubble?
That's a different kind of. The attack bubble gum was a different bubble gum they were inventing. This was just the regular bubble gum.
No, so they can pop the bubble in Darth's face?
No, that would be silly. It wouldn't make any sense. Let's just keep going. So he was chewing the bubble gum, getting very sleepy, and he could hear the sounds of his brother playing on the stairway, and he was lying down, and he started dreaming of ferns and trees mostly. And Darth saw some pictures of ferns and trees, and then Darth was watching, and he was making a tape of the whole thing. So they could watch it later together to look at it, to analyze the dream, to figure out what might be going on. And he saw a large cucumber that was being chopped up and put into a salad, and then Joe was in the salad too, trying to get out of the salad bowl, and his baby brother, who was really giant, was pouring salad dressing on him, and he was waving his hands in the air to try to stop him from pouring salad dressing on him. And then that dream kind of dissolved away, and there was a flash of whitish pink and white light, and then suddenly there were Teletubbies with guns that were attacking him, and he was throwing exploding bubble gum at them, and he was blowing up the Teletubbies. And so Darth woke him up and said, "Joe, Joe," and Joe took the gum out of his mouth and threw it at the wall. "Oh wait, it was a dream. I was dreaming about Teletubbies. They were attacking. I had to kill them all." And Darth said, "Yes, I know, but something very interesting happened. Look at this." And he played back the tape. And they looked at the tape, and they noticed that something very unusual. There was a flash of whitish pink light right before the dream happened. What is that, you think?" asked Joe. "I don't know," said Darth, "but it's not
Maybe
usual."
Maybe it's the beginning of some kind of tape player, like a mental tape player that the bad guy's using, because that's what happened last time.
There was a flash of light?
No, but a bad guy was trying to give them nightmares.
So they took the tape over to the spectral analyzer. A spectral analyzer looks at light signals and breaks them down and figures out exactly what part of the spectrum they're from, and finds out information about them. and they put it in the spectral analyzer. They played that part of the tape into the spectral analyzer with a connected cable, and they could easily see that it was a signal of some kind, and it was the result of a signal, and they realized that this is a signal that was being sent from some place that Joe's brain had intercepted, had received anyway. So Darth and Joe were thinking, somebody is trying to affect their dreams and trying to make them think that they are killing Teletubbies. Who would be trying to do such a thing, they wondered, and they didn't have a clue. And then also, Joe was wondering, how did they manage to send the dreams just to Darth and Joe? Did they know how to send them exactly to Darth and Joe's brain? Or did something make Darth and Joe's brain accept the dreams that they wouldn't otherwise accept? And what makes us different? Well, maybe we ate something, said Joe, that had some sort of receiver. Brownies? Well, we've been trying to avoid eating all brownies and fudge from Jane, but they thought back to that when it started happening. It was before she started making fudge. She was making brownies back then when they started having the dreams. And they did taste some of the brownies. But that's silly, said Joe. How could our sister's brownies possibly make us receive violent anti-Teletubby dreams? Doesn't make any sense. We have to analyze those brownies, said Darth. We have to get a sample.
They should just tape her and then show her the tape. And show the mom the tape.
They decided to tape her making the fudge, so that she, as evidence, so that they could say, look, your fudge is made from old brownies that are a year and a half old that are left in a drawer, and the brownies are made from dirt and carob and other disgusting ingredients. They have proof because they didn't think she would ever admit it without proof. So they set up a secret camera in the kitchen that night when she was asleep. And they started the tape recorder going. And it started, and she was making fudge again that day. And when she saw them, she said, "Oh, Darth and Joe." They were just about to go out the door. "I'm so glad I caught you. I would really like you to taste my fudge." And they said, "Oh, we just had something sweet. We really just brushed our teeth, and it's not good to eat fudge right after you brush your teeth." And she said, "Oh, my fudge isn't that sweet." "Really it isn't." And Darth said, "Well, have you tried your fudge?" She said, "Oh, I don't need to. I make it all the time. But I really want you boys to try some." "Oh, that's okay." "How come you won't try my fudge?" We're busy right now. We have an important mission to go on to." "Oh, you and your missions. Just try a little piece of fudge." And she held up 2 little pieces of fudge in each hand and started walking toward Darth and Joe. And they said, "That's all right. I'll tell you what, sis," said Darth. We're going to be back in a few hours. Why don't you ask us then? And if you still want to give us the fudge, then we'll have some." And she said, "Okay." And so Joe said, "Why did you tell her that we'd eat it in a few hours?" "I didn't say we'd eat it. I said she still wanted to give it to us. But first we'll show her the tape, and it'll be evidence against her fudge making, and then she won't want to show it, she won't want to make us eat it anymore." "Okay, I hope you're right," said Joe.
But have some show the mom some video later.
Right. Well, they wanted to somehow avoid eating the fudge, though. So they waited outside the house, and they went to the potato garden, and they worked in their potato garden for a while. And then also they discussed rutabagas, and what they might be, and how they might get some, or how they might avoid them in the future. And so finally they figured
Why
that
do they want to avoid rutabagas?
because they didn't really know what they were, and so they thought that maybe rutabagas were dangerous, and so they had a whole theory involving rutabagas and alien attacks. But so they worked on that theory for a little while, and then they came back into the house, and she had just finished making a batch of fudge, and so they quickly snuck by and got downstairs and took the tape out and rewound it, the tape they had made of her making the fudge in the kitchen, and they brought the tape up and she said, "Oh, just in time for a fresh batch of fudge, Darth and Joe. It was a good thing you didn't accept the fudge before, because this fudge is even fresher and better." "You must have a lot of fudge," said Joe, because he knew that nobody would possibly want to eat it. And she keeps making more and more of it. And she said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "Why? And why do you keep making so much fudge?" And you are, what's that?
To give to the ice cream store.
Did you do it to give it to the ice cream store? Because we noticed they had fudge flavored ice cream. And she said, "No, what do you mean? I would never give ice cream to anybody. I'm going to sell it and make millions of dollars." "Yeah, right," said Darth. "Well, we have a tape we'd like to show you." And she said, and besides, I keep having to make it because you guys sneak in and eat it all the time." "What? We don't sneak in and eat the fudge." "Well, then how do you explain the fact that I have an entire pan missing this morning?" "An entire pan of fudge was missing? Maybe Ben ate it." And Darth said, "No, he's still alive. He couldn't possibly." "Very funny," said his sister. "No, I kept it out of Ben's reach. I don't know how he could have got the fudge. You boys have been sneaking and eating my fudge, haven't you?" "No, really? Yeah, yes," said Joe, "and that's why we can't have any more now. We're so full from eating your old fudge, your old delicious new fudge." And she said, "I'm not sure I believe you anymore." And Darth said, "Well, we want to show you this tape." And they played the tape of the VCR, and it showed that her making fudge. And said, "You taped me making fudge? You trying to steal my recipe?" And they said, "Yes, we were very jealous of your delicious fudge recipe, so we wanted to tape it. We found something interesting." "What?" "Well, just look at the tape." And it showed that she pulled open the drawer that had brownies from almost a year and a half ago in them, and started smashing them with a sledgehammer because they were incredibly hard, and she used some power tools on them, and then she mixed them with some dirt and spices and smashed them into some sugar, and smashed them into a bowl, and she heated it up and burned it for a little while, and of course plenty of milkweed, and then she put some shavings from some cattails, and I don't mean the tails of cats, I mean the plant, luckily, on it. Not that that's edible or anything. And she put it all in the refrigerator, because you don't cook fudge, even though she did cook it on the stove. You're supposed to just refrigerate it. And when she was looking at the fudge in the refrigerator, they noticed something really strange. There was a blue light. It was a ball that you could hold in your hand. Floated in through the window, and some of her old fudge, which was on the shelf, it floated right by it, and when it floated away, the fudge was gone. And they said, "Hey, that's what happened to your old fudge. Some blue light stole it." "A blue light stole my fudge, my delicious fudge." And Joe said, "Delicious? Didn't you just see the tape of how you made it?" And she said, "Yes, and I hope you don't share my secrets with anybody, because that's how I make the most delicious fudge in the world." And Darth said, but, you used your old brownies." And she said, "Yes, that's called recycling." And so Darth and Joe said, "Look, we're going to go try to find your delicious fudge for you that the blue light stole. We'll be right back." And they left the house. "That's interesting," said Joe. She didn't seem to care at all that there was a tape of her putting dirt into her fudge. She seemed proud of it. Yes, but luckily for us, we didn't have to eat any, said Darth. And also, there's something very strange going on. Who would want to steal our sister's fudge? The ice cream man? Asked Joe. Huh, that's an interesting thought. Let's do an experiment. Let's leave her fudge on the shelf and see if it gets stolen again, and follow the light. Oh, okay, good idea. And so they went back in the house and they said, we're going to find it, but what we have to do is take your new fudge and put it on the shelf to see if the blue light steals it, and you'll have to leave the room. She said, but I don't want the blue light to steal it. It's the only way to get back your fudge, sister. And so she agreed, and they put the fudge on the shelf, and Darth and Joe said, I know, you wait here, Darth, and I'm going to go wait by the ice cream store, said Joe, and just in case it's the ice cream man coming somehow. And so they split up, and Joe waited by the ice cream store, and Darth waited by the house, and he was peering in a window, and from outside the house, and he saw a blue light descend from the sky, went right through the roof of the house. And he looked in the window and he saw that it flew right by the fudge, and the fudge disappeared, and the blue light flew outside the house. But when it was outside the house, it went so fast he couldn't see which way it just went. It kind of disappeared. But Joe saw the blue light because it appeared outside the ice cream store, and it went inside the ice cream store into the back. And the man working at the store didn't seem to notice. And Joe said, we found your blue light as a test. And he said, blue light? I don't have any blue light ice cream. I have some light ice cream, and I have some blue ice cream, but it's not light. They're different. So he didn't know what Joe was talking about. So Joe knew that he was innocent. So Joe contacted Darth. Quick, Darth, transport to the store. And that was the sound that was coming from the back room where the blue light had gone. And Darth transported to the ice cream store. And the blue light, when Darth and Joe said, look, we're on a mission. We have to go. Great. So Darth and Joe went into the back of the ice cream store because the ice cream man knew them really well and knew that they probably were on an important mission if they said they were on an important mission. And they saw the blue light. First of all, it went by the brownie, or the fudge appeared on a shelf. And then they noticed that their little brother had wandered into the store with them. I was making sounds in the background. And they yelled out to the ice cream man, could you watch our brother for us? Something very important is happening back here. And he said, sure. And so the little brother, who was wandering around the ice cream store, opening and shutting doors, and they looked into the back, and they saw the blue light change, and the blue light changed into a humanoid creature. It had 2 legs and 2 arms like a human, but his head had 50 or 60 antennas sticking out of it. And this creature was putting the fudge into ice cream. And Darth called the owner of the ice cream shop and said, what's going on back here? And that guy said, oh, that's the guy who brings who brings me the new fudge flavored ice cream. And Darth said, have you had some of the ice cream? The fudge flavor? Oh, I haven't tasted it yet myself. And they said, quick, said Joe, take that ice cream off the shelf. You can't sell that to anybody. Has anybody eaten that ice cream? Well, yeah, I just gave some of it to your little brother. Oh, no. Is he the only one so far? Yeah, he's the only one. Oh, plus a woman named Poughkeepsie. Poughkeepsie? Where does Poughkeepsie live? She lives on South North Street. Okay, are those the only people who've eaten this ice cream? He said, yes, why? We'll explain later. Or maybe not. But the important thing is that you get the ice cream off the shelf and stop selling it to people. And then they went back into the back room, and they said to this creature, all right, we know what you're up to. What's going on with this fudge, and why are you putting it into ice cream? And the creature, who hadn't noticed Darth and Joe up to that point, looked at them, and his antennas that were coming out of his head started waving around, and Darth and Joe turned on their rings of protection because they thought that they were about to be attacked. And Joe quickly took his wristwatch, his watch, and programmed in the electromagnetic frequency of the alien. He got out so that he could get a fix on him, and just in case that they lost track of him. And the antenna waving headed alien did not attack them. Instead, it turned into a blue light, and the blue light took off. And so Darth said, did you get him? And Joe said, yes. We can plug this information in, because I tracked him right when he was about to leave. We can plug it into the galactic computer and trace him without even knowing his name, because every individual creature has its own signature frequency, and he was able to track him. So they used the galactic computer, and they saw that this creature, which is able to change into a blue light and transport, had gone to planet Pingus, which, as you might know, is not very far from their planet. Well, planet Pingus is in a different solar system, but it's in a nearby solar system. So Darth and Joe quickly got into their ship and flew to planet Pingus and located the blue light creature, and they saw that there were a whole bunch of blue lights. And so there were a whole bunch of these creatures, these wavy antenna-headed creatures, which can turn into blue lights. And Darth and Joe said, okay, I'm Darth Joe, and this is my brother Vader. No, I'm Joe Vader, and this is I'm Darth Vader, and this is my brother Joe. Sometimes he gets a little confused when he announces himself. And Joe said, that's right, whatever he said. And they said, what are you doing here? And they said, well, we saw what you did with that fudge. What's going on? And why are you using that fudge to send us scary dreams? And they said, oh, you are from that planet with the TV shows. Yes, that's right, planet with the TV shows. Now, what's going on? And they said, well, we're doing it for your own good. Soon, all of your people will be trained for the war. The war? What are you talking about? The war with the evil Teletubbies. Teletubbies aren't evil, said Darth. And he said, oh, we have seen the transmissions. We know of the horrors of the Teletubbies. And so why are you giving us bad dreams? And how are you giving us bad dreams? And they said, we have discovered in an incredible combination of ingredients that is being mixed up by a brilliant chemist. We call her Jane, the brilliant chemist. And she's on your planet. And we discovered that when ingested into the body, those dreams make the ingredients will make good receptors for our dream beaming technology. So we've been spreading what she calls them brownies. So we thought it too dangerous to even tell her what was happening, because we didn't want to risk losing our supply of this brownie thing. But we used this brownie thing, and we know that it's a little bit poisonous for your species, but we also knew that in small quantities, if mixed into ice cream, that it could be used to safely prepare people's brains to receive our dream messages that we beam out. And so Darth said, what are you talking about with the evil Teletubbies? And they said, for years we have been watching the transmissions of the furry Teletubbies, and we have decoded them, and we realize that they have been oppressing your people and attacking you, but you do nothing about it. And there's only one thing that we decided that we could do to save you, which was to give you subconscious dream messages of battles with the Teletubbies so we could prepare your entire species for a huge all-out war with the Teletubbies. And Joe said, are you talking about the TV show Teletubbies? And they said, yes, this TV transmission which shows the truth of the Teletubbies. And Darth said, well, you realize that Teletubbies aren't real. What do you mean they're not real? We have seen the transmissions for years. We have been monitoring them. And Darth said, but it's just a TV show. Joe said, yeah, it's for kids. Like our little brother. What do you mean a TV show? The alien said, it's make-believe. Those are actors in costumes. They're telling fun stories. The Teletubbies aren't oppressing us or attacking us. And they said, but we have seen them. We have seen them with their special antennas on their heads, sending signals and bouncing into each other. And we know that uh-oh means they're about to attack. No, uh-oh doesn't mean they're about to attack. Uh-oh means hello. Are you sure about this? Yes. Teletubbies are a children's show. They're created for entertainment. And they said, then you don't need to have a huge battle and destroy all the Teletubbies? And Darth and Joe said, no. Then we've been sending you these signals for no good reason? And they said, yes, we appreciate you trying to save us, but it's really not necessary. So they apologized, and they said they would stop sending the transmissions. And Darth and Joe thanked them. They left the planet, and they went to look for their brother in the ice cream store, and he had fallen asleep in the back room. And they also looked for that woman who had eaten the Poughkeepsie, who had eaten the ice cream, and they went to her house. They carried their brother, because he was still asleep, back home, and they went to, and luckily the sister hadn't ever eaten any of her own brownies, and they let go. Thank you. They said to him as he was holding on to things when they carried him back home, the brother. They went to Poughkeepsie's house, and they knocked on the door, and her son answered the door and asked if he could help them, and they said, well, we're looking for your mom. She said, she's asleep. They said, oh no. And they went, and they thought, well, these creatures have stopped sending the transmissions, but we don't know if they stopped in time or before. So they went to her bedroom, they knocked on the door, and suddenly the bedroom door swung open, and she had a huge broom in one hand, and she was saying, kill the Teletubbies, kill the, huh, what? And Darth was saying, we're not Teletubbies. Listen, it was just a dream. You don't have to kill the Teletubbies. The Teletubbies are good. And she said, but the Teletubbies were throwing cucumbers at everybody. I know, but the Teletubbies are not our enemies. It's just a TV show. Oh, you're right. Oh, sorry. And they said, and it has to do with alien transmissions. Nothing to worry about. From now on, you can have good dreams of Teletubbies. See you later. And she said, thanks. Hey, aren't you Darth and Joe Vader? That's right. And you come to people's houses to stop them from having nightmares. Boy, you guys are great. And they said, just doing our job, ma'am. And they went home to see their brother, and he was asleep in bed, and or they had left him asleep in bed, and they asked Jane where he was because they didn't see him anymore. And she said, oh, I think he's watching TV. They said, uh-oh. And they went to the room, and Teletubbies was on, and the little brother was attacking the TV set. Hi-ya! And he was karate kicking it. Obviously, he had dreamed that he was a karate master. And he was kicking the TV set, and they said, it's okay, you can just turn it off, and the Teletubbies go away. They showed him the off button, and he said, off. And before, he had only known the word on, so he learned a new word that day. And he said, close, because he had just knew the word open before. And so he closed the TV, or turned it off. And Darth and Joe said, well, at least one good thing came out of all of this. Our brother's going to stop liking the Teletubbies and watching it. Yeah, said Joe, you're right. At least this story has a happy ending. And so Darth and Joe and the whole world no longer feared or hated the Teletubbies, except for, of course, for little Ben, who decided that he didn't want to watch them anymore because they were evil. And they went and they tried to explain the whole thing to the sister, and the sister, of course, didn't believe them at all and said, "Where is my fudge?" And they tried to explain, your fudge was stolen by aliens because it made people receive the dream signals from the aliens, so they would hate the Teletubbies and attack them, and you didn't know this because you never ate any, and that's why you didn't have the dreams, but we did eat some, and that's why we had the dreams. And she said, "Oh, you guys will say anything to get out of eating my fudge." Well, that's fine, because I'm not making fudge anymore. Oh, shoo. I'm making chocolate cake from now on. Would you like to try some? The end. And here is the recipe for Big Sister Jane's chocolate cake. She likes to have a crying baby in the background to set the right mood. She first finds some old fudge that she's made that's been sitting around, and the fudge, of course, is made from old brownies that are about 1.5 years old that she also made about 1.5 years ago. So she's making the cake from the fudge made from the brownies. The brownies are made from dirt and carob and bits of things that she's not quite sure what they are in the house, and milkweed and cattail, the plant. Pardon? And it makes people sound like this when they eat it. That's what they sound like after they eat some of it. I forgot to mention that she burns it until it's completely unable to cut with a fork and knife of any kind, and she has to use a sledgehammer to break open the brownies or cookies.